Howdy. In this video, we're going to go over provisioners in Terraform. And what provisioners allow you to do is execute certain things after a resource has been created. So what you can do is you can, once, let's say you're spinning up a new EC2 instance in AWS or a VM in Azure, once that resource has been created in Terraform, you can have it run a shell script or a command or have it upload files or different things like that. You can kind of think of it similar to what AWS has with user data, or with Azure with custom data, or Cloud Init. You can kind of think of it like that. But what Terraform says is, you can see here, provisioners are a last resort. So for the most part, you can accomplish what you need to do with provisioners through some other means. So user data in AWS you can use, or Cloud Init, or other things, or Ansible, or different things like that. So be cautious of using provisioners. Don't just use them at will. Make sure you know what you're doing and you're using them as the last resort. So let's go into a few things. Like, if you look here, there's a few different built-in. Let me zoom in. So if you look here, there's a few different built-in provisioners that are here. I'm just going to go over a few of them. But one thing you can do is local-exec. What local-exec will do is allow you to execute a command locally. So let's just dive right in and show you an example. Let me make sure I have my zoom correct. Alright, so when you do provisioners, what you do is you define them inside of your resource block. And you can define provisioners inside any resource block. And you can also do a null block as well, which I will get into a little bit later. But the way you define a provisioner block is, inside the resource, you just specify provisioner, like that, and then the provisioner type. So we have provisioner keyword here, and then the type is going to be one of these different types. And for right now, let's do local-exec. And what local-exec is going to do is allow us to run a command that will get ran locally from our current machine. So we can specify a command which is going to be ran from wherever we call Terraform from. So when we do Terraform, if I can spell, apply here, that this command that we specify here will be ran on our local machine and not the machine that we're creating. And the way we do this is with the command argument here, and then we set that to equal to whatever we want. And let's just echo something into a file. So we can do echo, and then also what we have access to a self keyword. So what the self keyword does is allow you to access any attributes from the AWS instance. So anything that AWS instance exports, we have access to. So we can do self, which references all the data from here. So we can do self.public IP, which will give us the IP of the instance that we're creating. So once this is created, we're gonna get the public IP of that instance, and then let's echo that into a file. So what this is going to do, so when you do a provisioner, what happens is this provisioner will only be called when you first create this instance. So if we run this, if we've already created this resource and ran this provisioner command will not run. It only runs on the first time it's created. You can also have a provisioner execute only at the end, or when you do a destroy. So maybe you need to run some type of cleanup commands, so you can have it do that. So that's very important. Provisioners will only run on the very first creation or on the destroy. All right, so let's run this and see what happens. This will take a sec. All right, so that ran. So that should have created us a file. And it did. So you see how we have the public IP file here, what we did there. So let's see what's in that file. And we have the IP that was created. So this basically executed this command locally with the local-exec provisioner. So I'm not sure what you want to use that for. It's up to you, but you're able to just execute commands. So we have that. Perfect. All right. So another thing that we can do with the provisioners is we have a file provisioner. So what this allows us to do is, we can create a file on our remote server. Somehow we can either, copy a file from our local machine up to our remote machine, or some other remote machine if we want. So let's see how we would do that. So let's get rid of this provisioner here. And the way we call this one is just file. So that's what here is, file. All right. And then what we can do is we can do content if we want. Content will just be content that we want to put in the file on the remote server. So let's just do content, foobar. And then destination. So the destination is going to be the destination on the remote server. So I'm using an Ubuntu image, so I know I have a user in or a path in home/Ubuntu that I can put this in. Let's just do tuts.txt here. So what this is going to do, the file is this is going to create add the content of foobar inside of this tuts.txt file. We can also specify if we wanted to, instead of that, we could specify a source. And we could specify a source on our machine here. So if we wanted to specify the public IP.txt, we could specify the path to that. And it would become this file here. So we would basically upload this file to here. Let's just do content here. So we got that. And then what I want to do is I want to output the public IP just so we can SSH into this machine and kind of show you that this does actually work. So let's do output, IP, value, AWS instance, what do we name it? Web, .public IP. All right. Do that. And then one thing we're forgetting here, or we haven't done yet, is we need a way to, SSH into this machine. Basically, we need a way to tell, Terraform how do we access this machine? Because technically, this doesn't really know about this instance. Because you could have some other machine that you wanted to upload this in, and you could do that. You don't have to upload it to this instance here. You can do it anywhere. So we have to specify, what machine we're gonna upload this up to, because this could be, some machine that's not even managed by your company. It could just be somebody else's servers completely if you wanted to, So it's not has to be, here. This could be we're creating an AWS instance here, but this could just be we maybe want to upload this to an Azure's VM for some odd reason to store the file. So what we have is there's a connection block we can add. And we just specify connection, and then we have the curly braces there. And then connection has a few different arguments. And what we want to do is we want to specify an access of SSH. So we can specify type of SSH. There's also you can do WinRM if you want as well. But let's do type of SSH. And then we need to specify the host. So you can specify any host you want. What we're going to do is we're going to specify the host of the instance we're creating. So the way we can do that is we can use that self. So we can get the public IP from this AWS instance here. So let's do self. Since self is from provisioners is what gives us access to the exported attributes of AWS instance, or the resource itself here. So we can do public IP, and then we need to specify our SSH user. So in our case, we're using an AWS EC2 image of Ubuntu, so the default user is Ubuntu. If you're using a different image, your user might be different. If you're using like CentOS, I think it's just, can't remember off the top of my head if it's just CentOS or root, but you can do that. And then you can specify, if you're allowed to log in with a password, you can specify a password. But most of the time you won't do that. You'll use like a private key. So you see here, I specified a key name on this instance here of William that I have. So we're going to use that's the key we need to SSH in as. So what we can do is do private key, and then we can do file, and we can specify the path to our private key. So here, currently at this one, I have it here, that location. So what this connection block is going to do is going to allow me to log into the server to upload this file, or output this content to this file. So let's do that. I need to destroy this first because I already created this instance here from that local-exec we did. Well, these connections only get these provisioners only get ran the first time this instance is created. So if we run this instance already is created, so these are not going to run. So let's destroy this. And that'll take a sec to run. All right, so that's destroyed. So now let's run our actual code here. Or let's create our instances, or our instance. All right, so our instance is created now, and we outputted the IP of the instance. So we can SSH in, and we should be able to see that this file is created with foobar inside of it. So let's see what happens. I think I already have SSH. I already have something here. So we're just doing basic SSH 54.244. So we're just SSHing. We're specifying our key because that's how we need to log in, like a normal SSH. Yes. All right. So let's see. We should be able to go to home Ubuntu. We should have tuts. And we do. And you look, we have foobar here. So that did work. So perfect. So that's awesome. So that ran. So that's how you can upload a file or upload content if you like. So let's get out of here. So let's destroy this, and we'll go on to the next part. All right, so that's destroyed. So let's remove this provisioner, and let's do a remote-exec. And the remote-exec basically allows us to run a command or execute a script on a remote like machine. Like we did local-exec before. We did it locally. Well, remote-exec allows us to do it on an external machine. So one way we can do that is, we have our connection info up here already. So what we can do is we have an inline keyword which accepts an array. So we can do inline, and then we can execute any type of bash command that we want, or any type of command really. So let's just create a file. We have home Ubuntu. Let's just do foobar.txt. So basically what this will do is this will create a file on the remote machine that we have here. We could also do any other command that we wanted. We could also specify a script if we wanted to, and specify the script, and then that will automatically execute the script. You can also, when you do the script though, you can't pass any arguments to it. So if you needed to do a script, you could do it in the end line and pass in arguments that way. And you can also, what you could do, and if you needed the script, you could specify that file block that we had previously here, provisioner of file. So you could upload the file first, and then use the command here to execute that command, or to execute that script, and pass arguments to it. Yeah. I'm not going to run this because I think you kind of get the idea of all that. But let's say maybe we wanted to do multiple, remote execs, and maybe we wanted multiple machines. So maybe we had like the default machine here, but maybe for some like logging purposes, we wanted to do, run something on a different machine here. So what we can do is we can actually define a connection block inside of our provisioner, which could define a different machine for just this specific provisioner. So we could do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever. So you can specify that here, and then this provisioner here will get run on the machine that matches this connection info, and then since this provisioner doesn't have a connection info, it'll default back up to this connection info. So keep that in mind. That's something you can do. And like I said before, these provisioners get done by default when you create the machines. But if you wanted to do something when the machine is being destroyed, instead of create, you can do when equal destroy. And then this will get executed on destroy and not on create. Another thing what happens is if your provisioner fails when you create the resource, what will happen is that's going to mark it in Terraform state files as tainted. So when you go to recreate or run Terraform apply again, when Terraform sees the resource as tainted, it's going to destroy the resource and recreate it. So be careful with that. So if this fails, it's going to taint the resource and it will delete the resource afterwards. But you can also specify an on failure if you'd like, which can be either continue or fail. So if on failure, if you're okay with the failure, you can specify continue, and everything will just work as normal. But you can also specify fail. So keep that in mind when you're doing things. And that's basically the provisioners. So keep in mind that these are things you want to do on the last resort and not recommended by Terraform itself. So use them with caution. But make sure you hit the subscribe button below so you don't miss any of the future videos. And I will see you in the next video.